clearer, so I'll warn you of that in advance. My
Oh,
20 years in radio, I'm constantly clearing my throat.
interesting way to start the recording. So, I know that you usually tell people how they are feeling. John,
Right.
how are you feeling today?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. My foot hurts. I stubbed my toe this morning. I have a toothache. I need to get a root canal. No, I'm, everything's fine. Everything's fine. I promise. No, it's summer vacation. This is week 2 now, for the kids to be out of a school for a summer break. So we're just trying to juggle them at home. And I forgot how quickly we run out of milk when the kids are home and not in school and everything. So that's been my if that's my only struggle, it's a first world problem for sure.
Oh, I can imagine that. Now, when you say you're running out of milk very quickly, would you say that that might also be because of you, considering you're really big into cereal by chance?
I certainly don't. I'm certainly not helping the cause by any stretch of the imagination. But I mean, the cookies and milk at night, that kind of thing too. But even just during the day, and yeah, we certainly have our fair share of. I'm looking at our. We keep our boxes of, like our active boxes of cereal on top of the refrigerator, and I'm looking at our pile right now, and a couple of them we probably need to retire because they've been up there for too long. But yeah, it's the quick thing. I mean, it's always been, and yes, I love breakfast cereal. I'm as nostalgic for breakfast cereal as I am video games or toys or cartoons or anything else. But my kids, it's the one thing that my kids can just grab quickly and not have to worry about turning on the oven or putting in the microwave for a minute or anything. It's the quick easy thing.
The quick, easy snack, which that
Yeah.
was the other thing I was going to ask about. You pretty much have gotten so many different types of cereal that's out there. What would you say is the one that surprised you the most that you never thought that they would basically make it possible, but you got it somehow, whether it was from a fan or just like going to a store that you went at a convention for?
This the most recent one literally happened yesterday.
Hmm.
Believe it or not. I mean, as far as like the breakfast cereal goes, I mean, yes. I mean, there are websites, and fortunately, reaching out to a few other people. And I'm not the only cereal collector too. I'm not the only. I don't know if there's. I don't cereal head. I don't know if there's a name for us. But there are other people in other countries too. When Super Mario cereal came out, the Super Mario Brothers cereal from Nintendo. This was probably from Kellogg's. Was it 2018, 2017? I think it was 2017.
Yes, I believe so.
I sent that cereal to so many countries, to all these other retro collectors in Brazil, in Portugal, in Spain, in New Zealand, in Australia.
Wow.
$50 shipping for a $2 box of cereal. but in return, they would also send me cereal that they had too. So it's kind of nice to make some of those connections. And South Africa has some wonderful breakfast cereal that we'll never have here. Well, not never have, but there it's fun to see just regionality, what other countries do for breakfast cereal. A lot of them very similar to what we're doing. A lot of other countries jealous at the selection we have in our grocery store because we have an entire aisle dedicated to, sometimes 2 aisles dedicated to just breakfast cereal of all kinds. There are some I mean, like you'd figure Japan would be awesome for breakfast cereal, and they're like the least breakfast cereal fans.
Really?
It's just like not a whole lot of not a whole lot happening in Japan as far as breakfast cereal goes, but South Korea a little bit, and South Africa has always been fun, and then other countries too. I mean, like in the UK, a little bit into Canada too. You'll find a few breakfast cereals that they have that we don't have, which is these things happen, but it's fun to reach out to Australia and have someone reach out to me saying, that they've never had, they don't get Fruity Pebbles. They've never had Cap'n Crunch. They've heard about it. Of course they have, but they don't have it available there. So it's fun to hook them up and hear their experience with Cap'n Crunch for the first time. And they're like, yep, I know what they talk about when it talks about, ripping the roof of your mouth and all that. It's fun to pass that on to them.
Yeah, that's the other thing is that it's kind of surprising that there are a lot of different brands that we have here that have so many different flavor variants. But speaking of flavor, what would you say is like the one cereal from any of those countries or like anywhere from like the US that you're surprised about that does exist that you don't think a lot of people know much on?
Oh, several of them. The one that always comes to mind immediately Not including the green onion flavored Chex from South Korea,
What the
which
heck?
start, which
Really?
started out as a this is a real thing. It's 100% real. You could look it up, go for it. I've tried it. It was started out as a joke in the late '90s in South Korea. They said, "Hey, we're going to let the fans choose what the next breakfast cereal is going to be from Chex. Do you want chocolate or do you want green onion?" What they didn't understand and what they certainly underestimated was this was near the birth of when multiple people had the internet.
Hmm.
The internet, being the internet, are just like, "Yo, let's all vote for green onion." Green onion won, but Chex already had chocolate in mind.
Hmm.
So they did that thing, and that's when like outcry. This is in South Korea in the '90s. This is and then so the geekdom outcry of just like, oh, I mean, of course they're not going to let us have it. Well, they turned it around, and sure enough, I think it was also probably around that same time, maybe 2018, 2019, somewhere in there. They came out with a, hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and do it. Let's come out with a green onion flavored Chex. In milk, it's terrible.
Hmm.
However, Christmas time when you're making like Chex Mix,
Hmm.
none better to use because it already has that green onion flavoring to it, so it's perfect for Chex Mix. But yeah, you wouldn't actually want to eat it with milk, although you could, and some channels have. I didn't bother with that, and they recently came out with a the sweet bean paste flavored Chex in South Korea.
Oh, I bet that one's really good.
You know what? It probably is. I literally have a box of it, and I haven't tried it yet. Believe it or not, I have it on my shelf though, so I'm looking. I do plan on at least trying it before it goes before it goes stale. And usually, like
Hmm.
rice based breakfast cereals usually last about a year, and then maybe even a couple of months after their best by date. But in South Africa, like we have cherry. In Japan, you might find melon, like for like the number one flavor
Hmm.
of just like we have cherry flavored everything. In Japan, you might find melon flavor. In South Africa, there's a lot of cream soda flavored things, and there's a cream soda flavored breakfast cereal in South Africa. And one that really caught me off guard was they have a bubblegum flavored breakfast cereal, which
Oh,
is
wow.
it's blue, so it's like blue bubblegum, kind of
Hmm.
like the ice cream, and it's that same kind of blue bubblegum ice cream flavored breakfast cereal. And my son absolutely loved it. It came with marshmallows, but the marshmallows were not like Lucky Charms marshmallows. They were like the mini Stay Puft marshmallows, like the little tiny ones,
Oh,
but
yeah.
those but dehydrated. So you actually had to let them soak in milk for a while, and it had a weird texture. It was like it wasn't. It was something very. I don't know. It's unique, to say the least. But it's fun to see what other countries do for where they don't mind about sugar content like a lot of the American cereals do. Well, there's one of them, strawberry pops. I literally have some on my shelf up there. There's a
Ooh.
there's a company that will buy cereal from South Africa and send it to you. So I've placed orders from them several times, and they have strawberry pops cereal. And I'm nostalgic for breakfast cereal. We used to have Nerds cereal in I think it was like the late '80s, maybe the early '90s, but at
Oh,
least the late
wow.
'80s. There was the Nerds candy had a breakfast cereal, and there was two different kinds. You could get one that was like orange and grape, and
Hmm.
or maybe it was like orange and cherry, then strawberry and grape. One of those combinations. I don't know off the top of my head. Um, but the strawberry pops cereal from South Africa tastes just like the strawberry Nerds cereal, both in flavor and texture and everything. So it was such a nostalgic trip to find that and be like, oh my god, this is what this is, just with a different label on it.
Yeah, that's
It's just fun
that's
to see
kind
what's
of
out there.
bizarre. Yeah, because I've never heard of like a nerd cereal. I just only know of the
Oh,
candy,
sure.
and some people consider nerds to be like very low tier when you get it for like Halloween, but I
Oh,
always
yeah.
liked the flavoring of it. I don't know what it is about it that I enjoy the most, but that's that's crazy to see like that get an actual product like that.
Yeah, there was it was certainly an interesting time for breakfast cereal, especially in the '80s and '90s, where they would just kind of do whatever, just do whatever. And I mean, I wrote a whole book on breakfast cereal about breakfast cereal for the '80s and '90s, and some of it stood the test of time, and some of it was just like we have promotional cereal now. There's a Buzz Lightyear cereal that's these
Hmm.
little star shaped pieces, but in the past we've had GI Joe cereal, we've had WWF Action Stars cereal,
Oh,
things like
yes.
that. It's the same cereal pieces. It's the same star shaped cereal pieces, and they just give it a chance to give them a reason to use that product mold again or something. I don't know.
with not much ingredients added in. It's just the kind of the same boring flavor they just
It,
threw in.
it's yeah, it's I have some on the shelf there. It's kind of bland. I mean, there's a vanilla flavoring to it. There's marshmallows, so it's like it's fun. It's fine and it's fun, but it's yeah, nothing I'd probably want to grab a second bowl of anytime soon.
Well, that's
The
still
box
cool
looks
to
cool
be able
though.
to see that. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, just that. Just the box looks cool. So I had to grab it for the cereal collection, and it's not as bad as some of the other licensed cereals that we've had in the last few years. So
Oh,
I'll
yes,
give it that
that
at
is
least.
definitely right. Well, since you mentioned about WWF, I want to talk about some AEW or just like wrestling stuff in general. I know that's kind of up your alley. Well, the first one is like, did you get to watch all the way through for Forbidden Door by chance?
Not much of it. I saw about half of it, and then it was on a bootleg stream. I'll be honest with you.
Oh,
And it got shut down. Where I live doesn't have. I don't have the. I mean, outside of maybe ordering it through their website and watching it online. I don't know if that's an option because it used to be I just order it through our cable company, but I don't have cable anymore. I just have. I have all the streaming services. But I don't. The AEW doesn't have a streaming service, unfortunately. So
yeah.
I saw what I did, and I caught I caught a couple of the recaps, and the AEW social media accounts are always very good at, like here's kind of like the quick clip of here's what you wanted to see. Here's the debut. Here's the person. Here's a move. So it's been kind of I've caught up a little bit that away, but unfortunately because of that, and I used to watch AEW when it first came out because we used to have PlayStation View access to TBS, TNT, had Premier League, which is like European soccer, which my wife was really into.
Oh,
That's why we
okay.
had it. Because of that, I also had access to AEW. And then as soon as PlayStation stopped their View service, then that was the last time I was able to catch AEW on television.
Oh, I
It's too
gotcha.
bad.
Well, if there's like any time that you need a place to be able to watch it, sometimes on Discord, I've got buddies that usually order the pay-per-view, and then we do like a group call and just kind of watch it on our monitor and just check it
Oh,
out that
fun.
way. So if you need a place to be able to watch that, just feel free to hit us up. We're always looking to add more people to the group on that.
Nicely done. I've heard of other towns doing like movie theaters, like they like actually have
Oh,
like one of
yes,
the
that's
screenings of a
right.
movie
Yeah.
theater. I was like, man, and our town doesn't do that. Our town, where I live, there's kind of like the Waynes, like the Bruce Wayne family in my town that's been here for 100 years, and they have all the property and they have a monopoly on the movie theaters. So there's no like we don't have Regal theaters. We don't have
AMC would be the
AMC,
one. Yeah.
nothing. It's all the locally owned and operated movie theaters, which also means that
Wow.
they've never ever accepted like coupons or remember buy this DVD and you'll get a ticket to see the movie for free. They've never accepted any of that. So it's like
Jeez.
that's just the way it was growing up. So
Wow.
can't do anything about it. They have a monopoly, so it's like what are you gonna do? Where are you gonna go?
Yeah, nickel and dime everybody who pretty much wants to watch a movie, and I guess like the selection at those theaters is kind of very poor. Do they actually do stuff like the Marvel movies or like any big
Oh,
AAA release?
Oh, for sure. No, and they do not just the AAA stuff. I mean, but they'll do like whatever's hot right now in movie theaters. Oftentimes, after something wins an award, like at the Oscars, where it's like, oh, here's this kind of random movie, like this artsy film that no one's ever talking about, but it won all these awards. They'll put that back in the theater. They recently. I mean, I'm in an indie film that was filmed in my area, and now that it's finished, they showed that for a week. So that was kind of
Oh
fun.
wow.
So they're able to do certain things like that too. Just unfortunately, when it comes to trying to watch wrestling, and there might be a local bar that plays it, but I haven't really looked into it.
Well,
Really
yeah,
should.
I know that they do some places like that. I know there's a place called Wings and Rings that's pretty much in downtown Lima, and I think they usually do that to where it's like about four different monitors, and then they usually play sports of like other like networks on
Yeah.
there too. But well, on top of the topic for wrestling. I know that you may not have a specific favor, excuse me, but as far as like a talent, what attracts you most, or who do you see as your favorite? Like Brian Danielson, Zack Sabre Jr., or are you more like
Oh,
a
sure.
big monster character like Braun Strowman by chance?
You know, I mean, he's T-Bar now, but I'm a huge fan of Dominic Dijakovic,
Oh, nice.
and so just as much as I've been a fan of Cesaro
Hmm.
ever since he was first there. I mean, back even when he used to yodel to the ring, I was a huge Cesaro fan, and he kept getting buried and overlooked in all this for years and years.
Hmm.
He's in AEW now, so that's good news for me. So looking forward to seeing what he can do there too. I don't really have, I've been a wrestling fan since the Hulk Hogan Rock and Wrestling. I mean, that was
Hmm.
my generation. I was the target demo. I was the target demographic for when the Hulk Hogan era came into play, and have always kept up with wrestling the entire time. Sometimes I was like, Attitude Era, I was an Uber fan. I got out of it a little bit, then I came back into it like into the 2000s, and then once the pandemic hit, I kind of got out of it again because I was like, I don't want to watch wrestling if the fans aren't there. Like when I
Oh,
see
of
the video
course.
screens, the Thunderdome, it's
Hmm.
like it just didn't sound the same, didn't feel the same. And I know that fans are back now, and I try to catch it when I can. I have I guess it's Peacock now, so I have the WWE network for the pay-per-views at least. Um, I'm a big fan of, let's see, like as far as AEW goes. I mean, even when he was on NXT, I've always liked Bobby Fish.
Oh,
So,
yes.
and not as Bobby Fish, but also, good lord, I'm drawing a blank. The other guy,
Kyle O'Reilly.
Kyle O'Reilly, yeah,
Yeah, there
big
we
fan
go.
of Kyle O'Reilly. He's going to NXT now, but I really liked NXT UK a lot. I'd watch that every week, NXT UK, and there's a guy who's from there that I really really liked, and he's moving up to NXT now under a different name, of course.
Hmm.
So interesting to see what he'll do there too. But I don't know. I just watch. I've always been a tall guy myself, so I've always kind of liked the tall guy, but they don't necessarily have to be like the big guy. They don't have to be the Kevin. I mean, I like Kevin Nash too, but
Hmm.
they don't necessarily have to be Razor Ramon or Diesel. But Dominic Dijakovic and Keith Lee is just amazing to watch. I'm just astounded by his size doing the things he's doing. It just blows my mind every time.
Yeah, it blows my mind whenever I remember back before he signed with WWE and got into the NXT developmental side. That I remember he went into a match between him and Jeff Cobb, and if you talk
Mm,
about like big guys that look like that
right.
they should not be cruiserweights, you see them doing moonsaults and doing all of these like splashes and stuff from the top rope, and they're just so quick for the amount of
Hmm.
size that they are. And I mean, Keith Lee is like one of the top-notch talents that are out there, and with him being in
Oh, yeah.
AEW now, I think he's gonna do really good now.
I hope so. It's he's due for sure. So we'll see what happens as always.
As always with every other company too. And it's not to knock on any company whatsoever either if they aren't using their talent. And that's the other thing about tribalism that I've seen is that it gets really nasty now, and I think that it was like pretty much like that back in the Attitude Era and the Monday Night Wars, because I think I got started watching both shows when it was like in '97, and that was when it was
Yeah.
really starting to heat up. Now I'm guessing you pretty much do not care about like which side you're on. You're just there to watch the wrestling. I take it.
For like good guys, bad guys, or
Or
Federation
just
versus
like
Federation.
enjoying both shows instead of just
Oh yeah.
being I prefer this more, the other one sucks because I'm pretty much
Oh
pro
no.
that.
It,
Yeah.
it, it's the Nintendo versus Sega thing. It's just like I'm down to watch everything. So I dig WWE for what it does. NXT, I'm trying to get back into it a little bit,
Mhm.
and but they changed like the color scheme and they changed just the look and the overall feel of it. So I mean, it's still doing something anyway. And I'm a big fan of AEW Dark. I
Mhm.
love watching the indie guys come in, and I'm a big fan of Warhorse. I've seen him,
Oh
and
yes.
he's been on AEW a few times, and he's been to a couple of video game conventions a few times too. So always fun to see him at video game conventions when he happens to be there too.
Yeah, and he was also at Retropalooza one time, wasn't he, or was it at a different
Yeah.
convention? Okay.
Yep. We hung out at Retropalooza, and that's in Arlington, just next to Dallas. That was
Mhm.
it was last October, and he was just at Too Many Games this past. I mean, it was literally yesterday now. But he just did that, and maybe he'll show up again. Well, because he's part of that Retromania wrestling game. So, and he's a huge gamer himself too. So it helps. Yeah, he's a huge gamer and huge and toy collector too. So he's with his people when he's there.
Which is good, because that's the other thing I've noticed, is that this generation of talent that's coming out is more like pro video games. Because we've seen it with Xavier Woods and the Up Up Down Down channel. We've seen it with the inclusion of Twitch, and there's like a bunch of talent, like he was Cesaro, now he's Claudio, and he does his stuff, and of course Adam Cole doing his thing. Have you took the time to check out any of those streams, or is it mostly just a conflicting of work that's gotten in the way to be able to watch those?
No, not at all. Yeah, I follow several. I follow Chugs, right? I follow Adam Cole.
Yeah.
Maya Yim. I follow Evil Uno. You know, they all stream, and they stream just like any other streamer. It's just they happen to be a pro wrestler. I mean, back when Xavier Woods, I don't know if he's done it recently, but Xavier Woods used to stream at least on YouTube, but he would just stream as himself, and separate from the whole wrestling thing. And he might ask a question or two or answer a question or two about wrestling, but for the most part, he's talking about video games, and people are, and he's talking to people in the chat and stuff like that too. So it's kind of cool to see them just away from the wrestling cameras and just kind of have them be themselves.
Oh yeah, and that's the other thing that I haven't seen if he's streamed in a while, but I know AJ Styles, who I was really surprised to find out that he's a big avid video game collector, because there was
retro gamer too.
Yeah, and I mean, I wish that he came to my shop over in Muscle Shoals, because when we still had that open, I think he was in Georgia going to his local shops, and had he had done that, I would have reached out to him before. But yeah, just the amount of stuff that he has in his own collection kind of surprised me too.
You never know. I mean, they happen to be wrestlers. I happen to work for a group of radio stations. It's just like that's they all have their side thing on the side, and that's just they're wrestlers too. And then but then someone like an Xavier Woods. I mean, he has an entire U.S. Sega Dreamcast collection, and I think Sega Saturn too, maybe. But he has an entire U.S. set, and then I mean, that's AJ Styles has shown his collection before in the past, and very cool to have. He has a I think he's the one who has the Play Choice 10 that he traded for a set of ring gear.
Yes, he did.
So it's why wouldn't you do something like that? That's amazing. That's perfect.
And it keeps the hobby alive, especially if you get enough money coming in and you pretty much pay your bills off. What else can you use on it? And you don't go on vacation as much.
Got your own, just got your own little, game room at home anyway. That's perfect.
It's the best way to relax, and I wish I had more time to be able to do that lately, but I've just been so busy that I've got a backlog of games, and it's kind of in my corner that I can't put the camera over to right now. But
before Xavier Woods was in, before Xavier Woods was, as part of the New Day and all that, he was, still a little bit with NXT, maybe doing some dark matches, for WWE on the road. I would see we followed each other on Twitter, and he would no matter where he was, he would be in Seattle chiming in saying, "Okay, I'm in Seattle. Where's all the retro game stores at?" And I'd be like, another castle, Pink Girl. I can tell you all the names. I'll tell you most of them anyway. And they might be in Portland. He's like, "Okay, I'm in Portland. Where should I go?" They're like, "Oh, go to Ground Control is a great arcade bar in Quarter World as well." And he's like, "Oh yeah, thanks. I'll check those out." And so I mean, he's been into that, and then he'd post pictures of hey, I found all these games at the store, and it's just he's holding just a stack of Nintendo games and Super Nintendo games and stuff like that too. So it's I like this guy, and I'm glad. I'm super happy for his success where he is now.
Yeah, especially being able to get Up Up Down Down running again, and it's kind of the sucky part about it is that both Cesaro and of course Adam Cole, who were a part of the party. And they were a very central part of that whole entire show, because it was the dynamic of the four, where he was Prince Pretty, who was, I'm trying to remember the exact name of it. He's not with them anymore, I think.
Yeah. Tyler Bree. He used to be Tyler Bree.
Yeah, that's who it was. I keep thinking Prince Pretty, because I remember when They were doing their what is it, the hot sauce challenge, and
Oh,
it
probably.
had yeah, it was Adrian Neville, who now goes by Pac, and I remember it was that thick hot sauce thing where they were playing pool, or no, it was ping pong, and it was the
Oh,
loser has to eat the whole entire amount, and I know that they were like their stomach was on fire the whole entire time. But I
I
just,
believe it.
yeah, I love that type of dynamic when it's like it's out of their like I'm trying to think of the word to say it. It was like out of their comfort level, I guess.
Sure.
But yeah, it's cool to see stuff like that. But
Always. Oh.
yeah, on the topic of YouTube, you've been doing this for like what, over 11 years? Would you say?
Well, I mean, I've been producing videos regularly at least for the last, I gotta think about it now, 5 or 6. I mean, the first video I ever posted was like in, I think, 2007 or something like that.
Hmm.
Was it 2008?
It's 11, like
Oh,
2006.
maybe it was 2006. I don't remember.
I
It was
think it was a while
it
ago.
was it was a while ago. But I mean, it wasn't like regularly posting videos. It was
Hmm.
just like, oh, I'm going to post a video on YouTube so I can send it to my mom, because back then I didn't have an email. I couldn't just send video files over the internet. Are you kidding me? At least back then for me.
Hmm.
And so I used it more of a placeholder to put stuff so I could email it to my mom saying, oh, here's the cute thing that my kid did, kind of thing. But yeah, I didn't actually start like actually editing videos and even like taking my channel seriously at all until I met Metal Jesus, and I was
Hmm.
on his channel, and then he was the one who was like, "Oh, hey, you should start doing videos regularly on your channel too."
Hmm.
So yeah, I can do that. And once I saw what he did, I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, it's not as luxurious of a production as many people might think. It's just I never thought about, oh, turn the camera on, talk about video games, and then edit in some game footage and post it. I was like, oh, that's easy enough. I mean, I can at least do that much, because I did a little bit of video editing and stuff
Hmm.
where I work at the radio stations just for social media, and I do audio editing all day, and video editing is the same as audio editing, just with another layer, which is the video layer. So it's like
Oh
yeah,
yes.
that's easy enough for me. Yeah, let's just do that. So I just started doing that, and that was a few years ago, and I kind of kept up with it, like and that's why we're here today, I guess.
Exactly. Now, since you brought that up, what would you find is more harder for you to be able to produce any content like that? Is it mostly the idea aspect behind it, or would you say it's when you get to the editing portion that it's either video quality, or would you say the audio editing portion is the hardest for you?
Well, for me, the audio and the video are kind of one and the same, because
Hmm.
to me they're on the same track. So sometimes I'll just edit out any. Just like in radio, people don't breathe like in radio commercials, because they edit out all the pauses and breaths and all that.
Hmm.
So I've kind of done that a lot with my video editing. If you compare mine to anyone else, it's very poor. It's very very simple. It's very simple, very quick editing. I can depending on the video topic, I can probably get something filmed and edited and posted, within a few hours. Even sometimes
Hmm.
depends on what it is. It's the capturing the video game footage that takes the longest, because once I have the video game footage, then I know what I'm talking about, and I can put the footage on top of everything else. And then even with that, it's you know trying to match things, and things don't always match up, but trying to match up. When I say this, then I'll show this, and that sometimes gets a little takes longer than it should. But
Oh yeah, I can imagine that being tedious, especially from the few times that I've watched your streams on Twitch. That it seems like you always have a lot of problems getting certain games to start, and then you get like a sigh of relief whenever the game finally works and you get to be able to play it in front of everybody.
I know sometimes I mean, it's video games are fickle. They are.
Hmm.
I mean, I try to fix them, try to clean them. Just and yeah, sometimes they just don't want to work for you, and that's usually, I mean, it's the Michigan J Frog thing, where it's like behind the scenes it'll work every time until you have an active audience, and that's when everything fails. So it's like, all right, well, at least we tried.
Yeah, to just imagine like cover the console's eyes up so that way it doesn't see that it's being viewed by about over 100 people or something like that.
Or something. Yeah, at least on my Twitch channel anyway. It's my Twitch channel is relatively very 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 small compared to the other stuff too. But that's also half the fun. Is like, it's growing a new audience. Whatnot's the same way. The Whatnot app. It's like, never mind your previous audience. You have a whole new audience. It's a new audience, new people, new group of people, new platform. So it's like, it's kind of fun to grow the new audience, like I'm trying to do with Twitch right now.
Exactly. And since you brought up Whatnot, I've actually been streaming on there a few times, selling video games on there, and the one
Nice, yeah.
aspect that I love about it, because we usually do, like, every few Tuesdays, like, around 10 a.m., and the one thing I like about it is that you get, like, about 25 people in chat, and there's like a bunch of them where you can see them typing something out, and you can just like say, "Hey, so and so, how are you doing? Thank you for coming in." But yeah, I love Whatnot, and I know that there's some people that don't really care too much about the selling aspect of it, but I think it's like you get a video game on there, and you can just bring up a topic at like any given time if you wanted to, and it just, while you're selling stuff, you're being able to talk with people. I like that about that site.
Well, it's handy too because again, it's Whatnot started, I believe, with baseball cards, and then kind of got into Funkos, like the Funko Pops and all that. Video games didn't come until like 2 years after the Whatnot app started, when they brought in the video games portion of it, and that's when I started. Was like I heard about it like in October, November of last year. I didn't start selling up myself personally until this January, in January of this year. So and during those days, you would just see if there was anybody on streaming, and now you can sign into Whatnot anytime. In the retro games category, there's probably a minimum of 6 or 7 people, all doing their own streams, whether it be PlayStation or variety streams, or sometimes they're doing like mystery boxes, stuff like that too. And because of that, and because it's a new platform, often before, go to a video game convention, they're like, oh hey, I watch you on YouTube or whatever. But this was the first year I've actually had people come up to me saying, "Oh, hey, I see you on Whatnot. This is my name on Whatnot." I was like, "Oh, I know you. You bought a game for me before in the past, so stuff like that too." So it gives them a new platform too. So maybe someone who doesn't want to do the editing of YouTube or the live streaming on Twitch, where you have to stream for hours on end. It seems like Whatnot, you can just come and go and sell a few games, have some fun, and then be on with your day and everything. It's kind of it's a nice ordeal. It's a nice ordeal, and it's a nice. To me, it's a breath of fresh air for Whatnot. Not that I'm shilling. I'm literally wearing the shill hat. Because I'm a fan of Whatnot and what they are. And they've never paid me to say anything. I've never done a sponsored video from them or anything like that. I just got into the app because I met the guy who runs it, and he told me about it. I was like, oh, that sounds good to me. Yeah, I'll sign up. That was that. But YouTube and Twitch, it's like I've compared it before in the past to Hollywood and Broadway, where Hollywood, everything's pre-recorded, everything's done, it's edited. You mess up, it's okay. You can do a retake, edited, polished, put out there, and it's there forever. And that's YouTube. Twitch is like Broadway, where it's live on stage, and you mess up, you say the wrong thing, too late. Everyone already heard it, and you just have to go with the flow, and just the show must go on, and you just have to swallow your pride and deal with it. And it's
get it out of your mind.
A lot of people can't do one or the other. Some people can't. I mean, they're very personable, but they can't do Twitch because they're trying to play the game and be interactive and be entertaining and follow the chat. And you can't ignore the chat. That's why they're there. But on the flip side, it's easy just to post a video, publish it, and walk away, and then come back later and see how it did or something like that. It's it's a give and take, and some people love doing one over the other. And then with Whatnot, it's a third platform that you can just jump in there and maybe make a few bucks. That's what I usually use it for. Is all the games I can't sell at video game conventions. I'll go to a convention, and whatever doesn't sell, oh, no problem. I'll put it on Whatnot, and then it'll be an easy way to get rid of it. Especially if you can't go to a video convention, we'll let the video game convention come to you, so to speak.
And then that way you don't have to leave your house and just like ship all of it out. Because I remember one of the times that we did one of our streams that I didn't really sell as much as I was expecting, but we still did like around 21 packages, and most of those were like a few handful of games. But it still surprises me like how much people are willing to spend on there, and it's honestly a good platform if people are looking to like sell anything that they have no need for. And I do see a potential growth in it, especially since you can take technically take it anywhere with you if you wanted to.
That's true. I mean, the people at Whatnot, when they go to video game conventions, because sometimes they'll have a booth there, they will not only invite other people from the Whatnot, like if they have a Whatnot stream, they'll invite them to sell their live at the convention, which is kind of fun. I did that at Midwest Gaming Classic, but then they themselves, like Joe, for instance, Joe, he's part of he's Retro Game Hunter on Whatnot, but he kind of oversees the retro gaming category, and he'll go around and do live shopping on the fly, where he's just going around with his camera to booths and just looking around, and then somebody in the chat will say like, "Oh, hey, I want that game. That game there, $40. I'll buy that game for $40."
Oh,
so
wow.
then then Joe will be like, "All right, let's buy this game for $40," and then he'll just he'll buy the game from the vendor, and then on Whatnot he'll do a buy it now for $40, so then the person can buy it and he ships it to him. So I mean, it makes it interactive like that, and I thought that was super cool.
And that helps the community out, which I don't usually see as many people do that. I don't think that there's been somebody on Twitch where they got like their backpack set up and being able to just go around and people saying is like, please buy that. I think who is it?
Cody
DS...
a little bit.
Yeah, DS Cody.
Koopa.
Yeah, or Koopa, I think is the Twitch
DS
channel.
Koopa, that's
yes.
Yep, that's Cody from Pink Gorilla, and he'll do that, but that's also kind of his thing. That backpack he has is insane. It's a backpack, but it's basically just full of batteries, because he's able to live stream all day with this little parrot perch camera, and he'll go to Las Vegas, he'll go to game conventions, he'll go to E3. It always worked, and he has his own hotspot, and he says, man, it's a lot. I mean, I forgot what he told me how much it costs like per day to do something like that, and it is a lot of money. But he said it's totally worth it just because it's fun. It's fun for him, and just hopefully those subscriptions keep coming in to pay for it.
Exactly.
But I think he does fine. Yeah, it's part of Pink Gorilla, so it's all good.
There's like a few people from Twitch that I've seen wear that backpack before. And I know that some of them even have like the the selfie stick, but it's still basically used as their camera to be able to film. But yeah, it's crazy like how much money people put into that hobby, or basically their job now if they get that full time then.
Yeah, if they can. I mean, I'm not, I like having the security of the full-time job too. So I don't, like people have said, oh, when are you going to quit YouTube? And so many people have quit their day, not quit YouTube, but so many people have quit their day job, even when they get to a certain level. But I was just like, I like my day job, and it doesn't get in the way of what I do on YouTube either. So, I don't plan on, doing that anytime soon. It would be nice if I could, but especially when you have kids and you have, gotta have insurance and all that. So it's, nice to have that thing to fall back on, I guess.
Which is good. And since you mentioned about kids, how is it being a parent that's also into video games? Does it get hard at times to be able to take care of your hobby, or is it just kids first and then always everything last?
No, kids are always first for sure. However, I mean, you will find time. So I mean, I've heard people was like, oh man, once I have kids, there goes my video game time. It's like, not necessarily. I mean, yeah, you want to make your kids a priority as well. I guess I was lucky because when my first one was born, my first child was born, it was right when the Wii came out, and they had all these great single Wii remote games, so I could hold the baby with one hand and play with the Wii remote with the other hand. So that was good news for me, and that worked out just fine. And but as far as everything else goes, it's just it's not like I'm playing video games for 8 hours a day. I mean, I know that there are probably some people who are, but even I haven't really done that. Maybe a little bit when I was in high school. But even I'd play a game for a while and then I would turn it off. With the exception of maybe a couple of games that have come out where I just kind of just marathon it over the weekend just to get through the game, like the story mode, so I don't get spoiled, and then do the side missions from there on afterwards. But it was nice for them because as they grew up, and I played everything. So I have my retro consoles hooked up, I have my new stuff hooked up too. I love it all, and it was nice because with my kids, they didn't know the difference between retro gaming and new games or anything like that, because it was all video games. They would play something for the Nintendo, then turn around and play something for the Wii U, and then turn around and play something on the the Sega CD. I mean, to them, just video games were video games. It didn't matter where it came from. I thought that was a wonderful thing for them. They understand now. They can kind of look at a game, and I might quiz them, saying, "Hey, when do you think this game was made?" And they'll give their best guess. But it's funny too because all the games I play on my Nintendo Switch, I love my Switch. All the like most of the games I play through Game Pass. Like I have an Xbox Series S just for Game Pass. So I'm either playing these old Nintendo games or I'm on the Nintendo Switch, I'm playing all these $5 indie games that look like Nintendo games. So I never really got over it. I just playing the same stuff. So the whole cycle of the same thing.
Well, that's the other thing I wanted to get into, and I know that we talked with Robman, who a lot of people know of from Happy Console Gamer, and he also is a parent himself, but the thing that I didn't know about until he talked about it during our little recording session with him, he has a kid that grew up with autism, and being someone who has had autism myself and being socially awkward, I guess would be the term to go with, because it was hard originally for me growing up, where it was hard for me to be able to go out in public and being able to not be around a bunch of people, because I remember my own family told me that I would be screaming when it was like a bunch of loud noise, and I don't even remember that. And then they told me
sensory
about
overload.
that. Yeah, I believe that's
Absolutely.
what it was that they told me. And we used to go to doctor's appointments, and we would go into this one room where I would be tested a bunch. Being a parent yourself that has a kid with autism, how tough is it for you to be able to take care of them, or is it just a lot easier than what you were expecting before?
No, it's a handful. It taught me patience more than anything for sure. Yeah, and my son is like nonverbal, has aggressive episodes. He went through an episode where he would just get on all hands and knees and just crack his head on the concrete just to see what it felt like,
wow.
and he would just get up and walk away. No big deal. We went through an episode, and he has like bionic strength, and he's determined. We went through a time where during school he just started pulling out his adult teeth one by one. He would actually, with his two fingers, get a grip on it and wiggle it enough so it got loose enough, and he would just yank it right out. So, so we went through a whole. I mean, I lost what was left of my hair during that time. Both ends. So it was something new. Something new every week, and you just had to figure it out. And he was one, and he's super active. So, you couldn't just put on a Disney movie and have him watch it. He wouldn't sit down long enough. He just wouldn't. He wasn't interested. It wasn't until let's see. I've tried to get him into video, and that's always been kind of the thing too. It's like, like autism and Minecraft are almost hand in hand, and he had no interest in Minecraft. And I tried. I was just like, and even if he like would play it for a little bit or something, because I know he was creative. I've seen him build with blocks. I've seen him build like marble paths where you build the marble track and put the marble down and it goes down the the little like the little roller coaster type thing.
Oh yeah.
Very smart at a young age. One of my favorite stories is he would open the fridge, grab something, and then leave the refrigerator open. I was like, oh, and we'd find it open in the middle of the night, right? So I was like, okay, so let's get a refrigerator lock. So we bought a child-proof refrigerator lock. He learned how to unlock it in probably 2 minutes.
Oh wow.
But he's polite enough. We've always pounded manners into our kids first, and he was polite enough that whenever he grabbed whatever he wanted, he would lock it back up for us, not realizing that we bought the lock for him to keep him out of it. But he would lock it back up for us. Very nice of him, all the same. It wasn't until, and my other kids loved this game too. There's a game called Panic for the Sega CD.
Oh yes.
It's an interactive cartoon. If you've never played it, every room you get a panel, like a little remote control. You push a button, and either something happens in the room for fun or for silliness or whatever, or you move to the next room and you just keep going and going. It was the first game I tried getting my kids involved with video games because, of course, that's my passion. And my kids always felt a little apprehensive holding a video game controller. They didn't want to lose, things like that. So I didn't force it on. But with Panic, you don't die. You just move from room to room. Or hit the button, something silly happens. So that also taught them how to use a D-pad. I remember I gave the controller to one of my kids. They tried to move the controller like a mouse on the table. I was like, no, you don't move. It's a Sega Genesis controller. It doesn't work like a mouse. You actually have to push. You have to push the D-pad, and that's what moves that direction. And as soon as they saw that, they were able to figure it out. And that was the first game that my son with autism loved, and that was the first time I actually saw him sit down and focus on something for more than like 10 minutes, for instance. So it was cool to see, and he got it, and he was into it for a little while, then he got out of it, and then it wasn't until Super Mario Odyssey, when Mario Odyssey came out for the Switch. I played it, I beat it. My oldest played it, beat it, and then when it came to my son, I was like, well, give it a shot, because again, unlimited lives. Even if you die, you'll just start right back to where you were. And then after he kind of figured it out, and he was like running into a wall, I was like, oh, hit this button for jump, and then he would jump and figure that out. Within moments, he was doing like the ground pound double backflip jump to get to the higher. It was like things I can't even do in that game. It's like, how did you figure out how to do that? It's insane. And he never really played it to beat it. He just would fly around and just play through the same level and over again, just to explore and all that. And that was another game he played exclusively for probably about it. I didn't see my Switch at all for probably about 6 or 7 months, because
Oh wow.
there's always playing, which is fine by me. I wasn't really playing it either. So every once in a while you'll find these little pockets of like, okay, like there's it's not all the end of the world, especially when you first hear it's like, oh my god, oh well, he's acting interesting, he's acting unique. Find out what's wrong. Well, it turns out he has autism. Autism runs in my family. I have my nephew has it, my brother had, things like that. So when we saw these things, kind of pop up, it's like, well, it might be this, but let's find out. And sure enough. But you just it doesn't make him any different. It doesn't classify him. I'm not classify. That's not the right word. But it's yes, he has autism, but it's not who he is. He's all these other things too. He just happens to have autism, and that's and he's it's not like we just leave him. When we go grocery shopping, we all go grocery shopping. He's included too. So it's it's nothing like that. It's just kind of have to work around his schedule and work around his time, and and know that. Just by saying, hey, we're going to go here, whether you like it or not, well, then you also have to put up with, if he's going to scream or freak out. I mean, we've never been to Disneyland, for those reasons, because it would just be an assault on his senses, all the colors, all the lights, all the sounds, all the everything. So yeah, he might have fun, but then, mom and dad over here would be exhausted, mentally and emotionally and physically. Looking out for him too, and making sure that that his needs are being met. On top of that, having 2 older kids as well, who just want to have fun, and then here's Jaren again. So it's you figure it out really quickly. But it taught us all patience, and also, and especially my other 2 kids as well. Kind of taught them that everyone's different. That's for sure. We made a lot of friends. I mean, you find out who your friends are really quickly when you have a son with autism, where it's like, I'm always like, please never stop inviting me to your barbecues, to your birthday parties. Know that I may not be able to attend, but know that it's not because I don't want to be there. It's all depending on how he's feeling that day, I guess.
With the current situation, and that's
understandable.
exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and the people who know that, and we've made a ton of friends from other parents who all, because we have a wonderful facility in our town that's a lot like a Seattle Children's, but just hyper focused on on things like it's like not just autism, but also like Down syndrome, spina bifida, all these other things too. So with that, and going there, you meet all the other parents who also have kids with special needs. So we all kind of, misery loves company, I guess. And not that it's miserable to be a parent with a kid with special needs, but you do have that special bond where it's like, you hear other kids' parents are like, oh, my kid won't eat their carrots. I'm like, really? That's the number one crisis today. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about the time that my son was pulling his teeth out. Although it's. You pick up a lot of stories along the way, but you certainly if you could see the world through their eyes, it's an amazing experience.
I do appreciate you bringing that up, because I know that that's actually one of my favorite things to talk about, is if there's ever like a family member or friend that they know personally that has personal issues or like any disability of any kind, that it brings light to it, and it's not all bad, because some people who didn't know that I'm autistic, that I pretty much had to really fight tooth and nail to be able to talk like this now, and it's
right.
It's an honor to be able to talk to other people who've actually had family that has had those problems.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of hard work. Our oldest also has autism. I mean, most people know my son, because I probably mentioned him the most, but my oldest It was, PDD-NOS is what they called it back then. Now everything is just, autism spectrum disorder. It's all in the same umbrella.
Mhm.
But yeah, there was a lot of speech therapy, occupational therapy, all these things leading up to preschool, to get them ready for general ed, like gen ed, not special ed, but gen ed,
Yep.
to get to where they need to be for gen ed. And yeah, they did have an IEP in place. But yeah, it's a lot of hard work. I mean, not just for the parents, but for the children themselves too. I mean, they have to put in, where, they have to put in the extra effort, and it shows.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I was going to ask. I assume that you have like an aide that's with your kids if they need it to be able to get through school. Because I remember when I was in junior high, getting in there, that my family got me an aide to be able to help me. Because sometimes I would have trouble doing notes, and she would basically be there next to me to be able to help take notes in case I miss something. Because it's like
Oh, sure.
my mind
Well, that's
tends
nice.
to like trail off sometimes, and
Of
then
course.
it's like they would give me this, and it's like I don't remember that, and so it's to me
Like
that
with
was the
this.
one thing that I was grateful for because I don't think I would have been able to pass school had I not had them involved.
You can get one. You have to fight for it.
Hmm.
We had, especially when my son was having like meltdowns, like aggressive episodes where he would just start like punching and kicking and hitting and biting anyone who was within
Hmm.
proximity to him. And if no one was in proximity, he'd do it to himself.
Oh wow.
So we really fought to have him have a one-on-one para during school. His teacher was wonderful. They had paras in the classroom that were great too, but we wanted someone who was with him at all times. And it took him, after a couple of years of fighting for it, when he was actually literally pulling out his adult teeth. And I'm not making that up when I say he's
Hmm.
pulling out his adult teeth with his fingers. Once with his tongue, because he got it loose enough, and then he was restrained, and with his tongue he popped it out.
Wow.
When that happened during school, and that was we had a teacher, we had a para, we had someone from the local children's organization who happened to be there taking notes to see how Jaron was acting in the classroom. All three
Hmm.
people helping him out. He was still able to pull out three teeth, and that's when they finally said, "Okay, he needs a one-on-one para." And we're like, "You think?" we've been fighting for this for a while. And she's wonderful, and has known him. I mean, he's going into high school this next year, but has known him since like the third or fourth grade is when we first had him.
Hmm.
And she's always just moved with him. That's been her full-time job, is kind of basically being his second mom during school, for this whole ordeal. My oldest hadn't, but did have an IEP
Hmm.
for things like that. But again, I mean, yeah, like it is possible, it is doable, and it's like I'm not on SSI, for instance, but but I've heard stories, because my mom deals with things like that for other people to get them the help they need. That's one of the things my mom does. It's like when you apply, and this is such a weird, I don't know. I'll just say it anyway. It's like when you apply for SSI for the first time, you get declined every
Hmm.
time. Well, then you have to apply for it again, and you have to keep applying and keep applying, because you have to keep fighting for it and keep fighting for it. For them to say, oh, they're actually serious about this. They're not just asking, for a handout or anything like that. They're asking. That's like, no, they actually need this thing. So it's like, yeah, it's possible, but man, you just keep fighting for it. And even if it's not for yourself, I mean, we're fortunate that we have that children's facility in town where we can actually recruit some of them too. They actually join us at the IEP meetings because they know all the right things to say. They know all the contacts. They know all the, they know the actual real rules, and not just the like, well, they need, they need 5 hours of occupational therapy per week, and then that's when the school says, oh, we can't provide that. It's like, well, the IEP says that you have to provide it, so you have to figure it out. It's so things like that. They can say the things that you didn't think you had the ability to say. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's doable, but man, you gotta fight.
Thank you for at least being okay to talk about it, because I know
Oh,
sometimes the
anytime.
subject is a bit touchy for some people to discuss because it's more like in the private matter type of thing. But it's always good to be able to talk to anybody about that, and I understand what your son is going through.
I'm an open book when it comes to things like that because there's sometimes you feel helpless and you feel like you're the only one, and it does. And you know, we learned a lot of this with talking to other new parents who are finding out that their kid was just diagnosed with autism or things. It doesn't have to be autism. Like again, Down syndrome, any condition of any kind, really. You know, feeding therapy, anything, where you find out that it's kind of like when you go to a video game convention for the first time. Let's bring it back to video games.
Okay.
You think you are the biggest fan of video games you've ever known in your life. Nobody loves video games more than you do. Until you go to your first video game convention, and then you realize, you know what? I don't feel so bad about myself now. It's kind of like that, where you feel like you're alone. You feel like what you're going through is you're the only person who would understand. You can't even tell your friends. You can't even tell your parents. You can't even tell anyone because nobody would understand you. But there are people who 100% understand you. I promise. I mean, and my son, you know, isn't even the worst case scenario. There are a lot of other cases, you know, that may be worse in their own level. I say he's nonverbal. He can say words. He just won't ask you how your day is. He's not going to ask you how you're feeling. Is what I'm saying. But he knows how to ask for what he wants or what he doesn't want. He can at least tell you that much. But yeah, he's not going to. But he won't be able to explain. Like he can't tell you how he wants his steak prepared. You know, not that he's eating steak, but you know, something like that. He can, but he'll tell you what he wants or tell you what he doesn't want. So, but still, because he doesn't use words as communication. He'll tell you what he wants and what he doesn't want. Other than that, he just kind of either points or just says, you know, what he wants, basically.
Thank you again for bringing that up, and of course we're kind of winding down to the very end of the recording, so we're gonna go ahead and get to the last segment, and this is one of our favorite parts that we like to highlight, called the 5 count. And what this is our it's not a wrestling term, by the way, but what it is it's our segment that we feature 5 different content creators, whether they're on Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, any social media site that's out there that you feel people need to check out that may not be getting a lot of attention, or if there's anybody that you currently are watching right now.
Interesting. Anybody, huh?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, I would recommend checking out. Well, we were just hanging out with them at Korg's not too long ago. I'd say check out Square Pegs.
Oh yeah, Jay's awesome.
Not the TV show. It's not the Sarah Jessica Parker show. Yeah, but it's Jay. You might have to look up Square Pegs Gaming or something on YouTube. But he does a lot of the same kind of content I do, where it's just like, you know, here's 10 sports games that you never knew about. He's also, I mean, unlike me, he's really into sports. He used to work at EA, so he also has that inside advantage that I don't. But his channel's been doing really good recently, so I definitely recommend checking out Square Pegs. Especially if you're into my kind of content, you'll find more of it over there. Game Dad is another buddy of mine. I don't know if it's under Game Dad Show or Game Dad, but he does like unboxings, and he'll do like controller reviews, or he'll find something weird and he'll just kind of show it out. You know, like a little show and tell type, retro gaming channel for the most part. Maybe a quick little news clip about, you know, a new game coming out soon. Like a retro game coming soon to like modern consoles or something like that, or even retro gaming's coming out to the retro consoles. There's still people making, you know, Sega Genesis games that are brand new. We might cover those too. Let's see, who else? Oh, but we can do on the Twitch side of things. I lurk a channel pretty regularly called King of APOC. I think that's how you pronounce it. King of APOC, APOC, King of APOC. I met him at Too Many Games in 2019, and he loves to stream retro stuff, but he streams the retro stuff that no one else is streaming, like import Sega Saturn games, stuff like that. So it's always kind of cool to see what he comes up with. He's a huge Saturn fan, huge fan of imports. So, and I'm a huge import fan too. So I've discovered a lot of new games that I didn't even know existed by checking out his streams. Who else do I lurk on Twitch? Abby Jams would be another one, just because they're so full of life and fun personality and interacts with the chat, and, you know, has an infectious giggle and stuff like that. Abby Jams with a Z, ABBY, Jams with a Z. Okay. And gotta think of one more. Let's do. You know what? I should think of a Whatnot streamer if I was thinking about it. What's a Whatnot streamer that I check out? I usually just pop in and see whoever's there. Another YouTube channel I'd recommend is called P-Dub's Arcade Loft.
Okay.
P-Dubs. His initials are PW, so PDUBS Arcade Loft. Although his channel's called P-Dubs Arcade Loft, and he used to do, still does, a ton of arcade content, like 1-Up Arcades, At Games Legends Ultimate, the II Arcade, things like that too. But he's also kind of recently, done more like indie reviews and other like like new Nintendo Switch games that play with a retro vibe. The kind of games I like too. And his channel's been kind of taken off a lot recently too. So he's kind of finding his place in the world and great and cool guy, great guy. So those are the 5 I can think of off the top of my head. There's gonna be a billion more of them, I'm sure. But
Well, we'll have to do maybe a follow-up in the future, and I know that it was kind of confusing as far as scheduling, because I think I said Monday/Tuesday, and
yeah.
I guess I was just like, man, I do gotta get stuff done, because I gotta go on vacation here next weekend. But we finally got it out of the way, and we'll hopefully be able to catch up at a different date and be able to see how things are going, but... Thank you, John, for coming on for the recording. This was a pleasure to have you on, man.
Pleasure to hang out anytime, dude. Always. More conventions in the future, too.
Definitely. More conventions. Thank you again, John.
Always.